Thank you for joining us again and welcome back to Ed Explorer. As you all know, on this channel, we focus on 100% geopolitical and geoeconomic issues, on how the continent of Africa interacts with its global partners. We look at strategic issues and why Africa has decided to move forward with regard to its own decision in a number of areas. I have a very important video to play. But today, let me talk about the development between Africa and its geopolitical partners, specifically with China. The continent of Africa has decided to go alongside win-win partners in a number of ways. China, for example, is one of those countries that have continued to remind the United States that it is in the continent for the long run. This has been a contentious issue in the geopolitical circle. Some will question the relationship and call it that China will put Africa into debt and kind of a debt trap in quote. But that's not what is happening. We see China continue to prove and disprove other Africa's geopolitical partners that it is investing in the continent of Africa. China has invested in infrastructure across West Africa. China has invested greatly in the continent of Africa, from infrastructure, ports, and a whole lot of other areas that has transformed the lives of African people. This narrative of that China is in Africa for extraction of natural resources. Every country that has interacted with Africa in the past 100 years have been there to extract natural resources. Africa is looking for partners that can work alongside them. It is shameful that the United States keeps talking about debt trap in the continent of Africa. The multilateral institutions that Africans interact on a daily basis are holding Africa on huge amount of debt. Look at Ghana, other countries in the continent of Africa. Those nations are paying a huge amount of their GDP to this multilateral financial institution. This is a big problem, and that's why Africans are looking for other options. In different areas, I would say the notion that Africa does not have enough projects for the United States to invest its money. That's not true. The Lobito corridor has been announced for quite some time, and there hasn't been the huge infrastructural development, and the people are watching. Yet China continues to disprove the United States and its geopolitical partners that Africa has something to offer. The notion that the continent cannot make its own strategic decision, and saying that each project that has been implemented by the Chinese in the continent is as a result of debt trapping, or they are trying to engulf Africa, or some will put it that it's like a second colonialism. I think that's wrong. China has proven over and over again, not just with the Belt and Road Initiative, but with other infrastructural development projects that are individual Chinese companies that are involved in Africa. Africa has enough opportunity for everyone to come in and play. Let's stop this funny conversation about debt trapping and a number of areas. China has proven over and over again that Africa does work. Without any more delay, let's just dive straight into this video to disprove that China is indeed in Africa to also invest and do business. Let's play this clip and we will join you on the other side.
At the Confucius Institute of the University of Nairobi, top government representatives from the Chinese embassy in Kenya, the Kenyan Foreign Ministry, and more than 20 ambassadors from African nations gathered to start a tour of vital infrastructure that China has assisted in constructing in Kenya. Their first stop was the 27-kilometer Nairobi Expressway. Officially opened in 2022, the tolled highway was built under a public-private partnership between the Kenyan government and the China Road and Bridge Corporation. The group watched those who were responsible for its upkeep and maintenance, and were given a detailed rundown of how the dispatch center operates. Next on the agenda was a standard gauge railway, a spectacular line that connects Kenya's coast with its interior, and will soon go even deeper into the continent. Key operational infrastructure, vital systems of rail transport were all shown to the officials. For the first time ever, they were able to experience the premium class coaches.
This is a project that was constructed through cooperation with China from Mombasa to Nairobi, a distance of 472 kilometers, and then from Nairobi to Naivasha. We also have plans, of course, to extend it to its destination. SGR is not a Kenyan project, it is a regional project. We want to extend it from Naivasha to Kisumu, a distance of 362 kilometers, and then lift it from Kisumu to Malaba, distance of 106 kilometers, and onwards to Uganda with branch lines to South Sudan, to Rwanda, and all the way to Eastern DRC. That is the vision of the standard gauge railway, which is one of the critical BRI, that's Belt Road Initiative project.
The United States talk about Chinese investment and involvement in Africa in a negative way, which doesn't sit well in Africa. The notion that China is in Africa to exploit is falling in deaf ears, and it makes no sense from a number of areas. This conversation has been in the mainstream media for quite some time now. I think Africa doesn't buy it, and a lot of other geopolitical partners still know that. It's not actually true. China is looking to invest continuously, as we've seen. Post-pandemic, we've seen that China is coming back again, and the United States in other areas has nothing to prove, to show. The US has a project, or been involved in a project in the Lobito corridor, as it's known, around Zambia and a number of other countries in the Southern African area. This hasn't shown some kind of results. Since the announcement, we haven't seen huge construction projects going on. But China continues and continuously move into the continent, and to show that it is in the continent for a long run. Let's play this clip.
The following day, the Kipo Oil Terminals in Mombasa, the largest of its kind in Africa. The terminus is an offshore facility built by the China Communication Construction Company, China Road and Bridge Corporation, and Fourth Hub Engineering Company Limited. The project consists of one offshore island terminal that can handle 4 ships at a go, whose total length is 770 meters. The scheme was created to significantly reduce the burden on Kenya's oil transportation industry and boost the port's ability to handle and store oil, both of which are crucial for promoting Kenya's economic growth.
No society, no country can progress without infrastructure. And when we talk about infrastructure, we are talking about roads, we are talking about railway, we are talking about seaports, and we are talking about terminals, such as where we are today, like oil terminals. And so the Chinese investment in Kenya has focused precisely on these enablers, these drivers of economies, by investing together with us through a PPP framework on the Nairobi Expressway, by working with us around a financing agreement, around a loan facility to support the construction of the 485 kilometers long rail, and now by working with us on this terminal. It is very clear that China understands that what Africa needs mostly and what Kenya needs mostly in order to optimize its potential, in order to unlock its potential, is infrastructure.
Africans are looking for a mutual beneficial relationship. And that's what most African countries and governments are receiving from the other partners. This notion of lecturing and condescending approach and imposing and giving directions, I think it's not going to work. There is something that China and Russia brings in. I'm not saying the United States of America hasn't engaged Africa in a number of areas. But again, Africans are looking for a mutual beneficial relationship that comes with a win-win from both aspects. So African countries have a role to play, whether in the United Nations, natural resources area, in human capital, in development, in collaborations, in voting at the UN. Africans have some leverage in a number of areas. So this notion of that you can treat the continent in a way which is not beneficial or mutual relationship is going to backfire, as we all have seen. Let's roll this clip and we will join you on the other side.
The relations here are mutually beneficial to the peoples of China and the peoples of the Republic of Kenya.
Of China's many partners in Africa, Kenya has experienced especially revolutionized infrastructure development. This marks a significant departure from the skepticism of traditional narratives concerning Africa. According to Kenya's government officials, the country's dedication to fostering free trade, open economies and collaboration with China under the Belt and Road Initiative promotes free trade and global cooperation. As of 2023, the Belt and Road Initiative has been joined by over 140 countries and international organizations that have signed a memorandum of understanding or cooperation agreement with China.
This story of that China or Russia is in the continent of Africa for exploitation, I think it's not holding ground like I've pointed out. The United States of America and its global partners should start looking at Africa as a mutual collaborative partner where they can work together. There are tons and billions of projects in Africa. The US have no excuse not to look into the continent to engage in projects. The Lobito corridor has been announced for quite some time now. And still, the countries in that region are looking to see what the Americans can do. But that hasn't gone well so far. I think that the US should stop this narrative of that China is in the continent of Africa for debt trap and exploitation.
The Western countries accuse China of using the Belt and Road Initiative to set up debt trap for African countries. What do you think?
The Western countries, they are the ones who made Africa have a debt trap. For more than 60 years since independence in Africa, no African country has made major progress in terms of economic development. But only in the last 40 years of China's development, we've made big strides because the market is wider. The participation of the African countries on the global stage is bigger. The footprint of Africa in the global stage is getting much and much more acceptable to the economic development in the world. So China has given us opportunities. It creates a very big volume of market for us to interact so that we can grow our economies together. No African country is under the burden of Chinese debt. The burden of debt in Africa is owed to the World Bank, to the Bretton Woods institutions of America, and to the IMF International Monetary Fund. But they want to accuse China. The debt with China is very little for Zimbabwe. We will grow our economic cake bigger, and the debt which the Western countries are talking about will be small and small and small as we begin to accumulate our own capacity to develop our economy. So we are not worried. We want more capital from China. The Western countries are jealous because capital from China is modernizing Africa. It is bringing Africans to the global economic stage, which they never did. Before China, nobody ever thought of Africa. Those who accuse China of a debt trap, they are jealousy, they won't succeed, and they will not stop the shared development endeavor between Africa and China. It will not stop. We want more capital out of China. Before, Africa, if you wanted capital, you go to Paris, it's expensive. You try to go to New York, it's even more expensive. You try to go to London, oh, it's through the roof. You can't even get capital. The debt is, the cost is too high. Come China, the cost is low. It's good. We are also happy. Many other countries are becoming part of the global stage. But the country which has shown the way more than any other in the last 40 years is China.
We want to thank you for watching. Give us a comment. Let us know what you think in regards to China's relationship in the continent of Africa. If China has made some huge strides in your country and your region, and let us know why those impacts are helping your people. We are looking ahead. Leave us a comment, subscribe, and watch other informative videos on our YouTube channel. We are looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye-bye.